Hey y'all, today we're going to make my Amish bread. Everyone in the family absolutely loves it, and it's a fun and easy recipe to make and relatively simple process, so a beginning bread maker could easily do this recipe. So let's get started. First thing you need to do is put 2 cups of really warm water into a bowl. 2/3 of a cup of sugar. From there, you're going to mix it up really well until the sugar dissolves. Once the sugar is dissolved, or mostly dissolved, you're going to put in 1.5 tablespoons of active dry yeast, which basically translates to one of these little packets here. Now this recipe is actually going to make 2 loaves of bread. So we'll mix that up a little bit. Let it start getting just a little bit foamy on us. And then what I like to do, because you want to let this proof for a few minutes, and basically it's going to get really frothy and foamy. And what I like to do is I like to set the bowl in the microwave and close the door, because that keeps some warmth in the microwave and it kind of acts like an insulator and keeps this warm, because it's winter time and it's not super cold here, but it's cold enough to make this process take a really long time. So I stick it in the microwave and I don't turn it on. I just set it in there and close the door to act as an insulator. And then I come back in a few minutes and it's nice and frothy and ready to go. Alright, so this has been sitting in the microwave for several minutes, and as you can see, it's got this nice foaming action going on. That means that your yeast is activated and that it's working how it's supposed to. So that ensures that your bread is going to rise. Alright, so the next thing you're going to do, you're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 1/4 cup of oil. And I'm using vegetable oil here. Any light oil is okay. And then give it a little stir. And then you're going to start adding the flour. And you don't want to do this all at once, otherwise you're going to have just a heck of a mess. So I'm just going to start dumping some in. I've already pre-measured this flour out, so I know how much is going in there. I start out with my whisk, but it doesn't take long for me to stop that process. Still good here. Still good. You see it starting to thicken up a little bit. You're going to just incorporate this really good so that it's totally mixed in. Just nice and easy. Once you finish mixing this all in together, you're actually going to roll it out onto a surface that's been floured. And you're going to knead the dough for a few minutes to get it all incorporated and make sure that the dough is smooth. Once the dough is kneaded up really well and smooth, then you're going to let it sit and rise. From here it starts to get really messy. pour the rest in there. And now I don't worry about getting it all mixed in before I turn it out onto the counter, because I'm going to be able to get all of that kneaded in anyways. So there's no sense in wasting time trying to get it right now. All of this flour is eventually going to be worked into this dough, so there's literally no reason to worry. I like to get my bowl cleaned out pretty well because I end up putting the dough back in the same bowl to rise. So you're just folding it over itself, giving it a nice push. You can see that that flour is starting to get worked in rather quickly, so it's nothing to worry about. Turn your dough. Then I like to roll around my spot and pick up all of this excess little flour. When it starts getting smooth, it's not necessarily easier to knead. This certainly gives you a workout, but you can feel when it starts to get smooth. All right, there's our dough. And then we're going to take this bowl and I just give it a nice good coating all the way around. Put the dough in, kind of turn it over and get it really good and slimy. And then put it back in there. And then you're going to want to cover this with a wet, clean towel. And I just set it on top of my stove. That's the warmest spot in the house. And it takes a couple of hours for it to rise up good, but it's well worth it. So, be right back. Okay, this is one that I've already had setting up, and it's ready to separate out into loaves and put into the loaf pan. So we'll go ahead and do that now that we've got that other batch started. Now, one thing you want to make sure is that you really grease up these loaf pans. Now you get to punch down the dough, which is always fun. Okay, knead it just a little bit. Nice and smooth. And I do all of this in the bowl, so I'm not making any more of a mess. I'm keeping everything contained. It looks good. And then just kind of eyeball it and measure out 2 dough balls. They feel about the same. This one actually feels a little heavier. Okay. And then kind of slap it around a little bit and form it into a log, and then into the loaf pan. And then this is going to sit for a little bit longer, and it's going to rise some more, and then we'll put it in the oven.